Hey there, I'm Julie, and this is the Married to Addiction podcast. If you're here, then you're probably what I call my secret sister. We're in a situation we never asked to be in and fighting a battle we never wanted to fight. We're faith-filled women who are married to an alcoholic, and it affects every inch of our lives. If that sounds like you, then this is a safe place for you to land. Married to Addiction is a faith-based podcast where I help you find the tools and strength you need to navigate your husband's addiction without losing yourself in the process. So please subscribe and tune in as often as you can, because your husband's recovery is important, but so is yours. Hey, have you ever thought about having a podcast of your very own? If so, great news. Spotify has a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money. It's all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. So Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can get started creating as soon as today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify, so that's pretty cool. And with Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I really just feel like it's taken my podcasting to a whole nother level. So I highly recommend you give it a try if a podcast is something that you've been thinking about as well. Just download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Psst, I have something for you, and it's free. Did you know that I offer a completely free 40-page coaching workbook for the wife of an alcoholic? If you don't have it, I would love to get it to you. I put this workbook together to basically help you if you are feeling totally confused and losing hope that things will ever change with your husband. This workbook contains all of the things that I know can make a real difference in your situation. It has coaching, it has guidance, it has worksheets and exercises to help you actually figure out how you can apply the things I tell you in there to your specific situation. There's checklists, there's planners. All of the things in the workbook are things that I know from experience will get you on the path to clarity, healing, and peace. I would absolutely love to share this with you. And again, you can get it completely for free. All you have to do is head to my website, marriedtoaddiction.com. You will see a tab there called Free Coaching Workbook. You enter your information and it will land in your inbox. I hope you love it. Hello, and welcome into episode 70 of the Married to Addiction podcast. Today's episode is called The Varying Degrees of Alcoholism. But before we get into that, I just want to quickly say that I know I have not been here very consistently. As I mentioned in my last episode, there's been a lot going on with my parents and some health challenges with them. So we finally are hopefully at the end of the most difficult part of this journey. My parents are now safely in Texas, very close to me, in a great community. They're very happy there, and I just feel so blessed to have them here and close and safe. So thank you so much to everyone who said a little prayer for them and for all of this to work out, because it most certainly has worked out beautifully. So thank you for your prayers. Okay, let's get started. The varying degrees of alcoholism. So I wanted to talk about this today because there are many different ways that alcoholism can look. So we're going to talk about a few of those today. And one thing to remember is that this is a progressive disease. So an alcoholic's level of consumption will likely change over time. Where your husband is now is not likely where he will stay. So I thought it would be helpful to go over some of the different ways that alcohol dependency can look. I remember wondering if my husband actually had a problem for a while. I wasn't really sure if I just thought he was drinking too much or if he really was drinking too much. So my hope is that this episode will provide you with some clarity around that. The first kind of drinker I want to talk about is the drinker who drinks every day, but it doesn't really necessarily seem to be affecting their daily life. So he probably goes to work reliably every day. He leads a quote unquote normal life, but he also comes home and drinks every night after work. At this point, we haven't really felt any effects from it. He just goes to his job, does his job effectively, comes home and has some drinks at night. No real like massive behavior shifts or any problems that are coming along with that at this point. However, you can tell that there is a level of dependency because they can't go a day without a drink. This is where we usually first start to get concerned about our husband's drinking. So, like I said, this is where I was thinking, I don't know, like, is this normal? Is this not so normal? So, if this is where your husband is, this is where you're probably starting to ask those same questions. The second type of drinker I want to talk about is kind of the same as the first that I just described. However, we are now being affected by it. So he still goes to work every day reliably. But when he comes home and drinks at night, he's drinking to excess, to where he's maybe getting belligerent or sloppy, as they say. He might be acting rude to us. The kids might have started to notice that he's being different or be asking what's wrong with daddy. So at this point, there are effects to the family, the people around the drinker. And now we know there is a problem because it's starting to affect us, it's starting to affect our kids, etc. The third type of drinker I want to talk about is the binger. So this person doesn't drink every day. They still go to work, they hold a job, etc. And some nights they come home and they don't drink. But when they do drink, they drink way too much. Now, this isn't just on a rare occasion. So say, like maybe your husband, you go to a couple of weddings a year, and weddings are just like his trigger where he drinks way too much, or when you go on vacation or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that happens like maybe once a week or so. Like maybe they don't drink through the week, but during the weekend, they go on like a bender, as they say, and they just drink way too much. So during these binges, they are making poor decisions. They are affecting those around them. They might even be blacking out. Again, when this type of drinking is happening, we do know that there is a problem. The fourth type of drinker I want to discuss is the person who is drinking a lot of alcohol every day. It is affecting their life. It is affecting the lives of those around them. It is blatantly obvious to everyone that there is a problem. This is usually the point at which their health starts failing, they lose their job, etc. This is where my husband was when he quit, when he went into recovery. Thankfully, he did, because it was not good. The doctor basically had told him if he didn't stop drinking, he was going to die. So you can see that there are varying types, and there's others aside from the ones that I've talked about here today. But in each of these scenarios that I have discussed, there's probably some level of concern, even in the first one, because that person is not likely to stay in that place where their drinking is not going to eventually start causing some problems for them and the people around them. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways that this can look, but I want to make sure that you do know that each of these scenarios require boundaries on our side. They also require a deeper understanding of addiction so that we know exactly what's happening to our husband and why. All of those things are really important no matter what level of addiction your husband is at. There is one more type of addiction, There is one more type of drinking that I wanted to talk about. This is not addiction, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. If your husband just has a beer or two, a couple times a week, like literally just a couple of beers, a couple times a week, I don't believe that's automatically cause for concern, so long as it's not creating any negative repercussions. Sometimes in these situations, I have seen people create an issue where there really isn't one, and maybe it can change, but in some of these situations, it won't change. They're just a guy who has a couple of beers a couple times a week. But sometimes we do perhaps create an issue where there isn't one just because we don't want him to drink. And we get frustrated that he won't do what we say. So even if it's not really a problem, maybe we don't drink and so we don't want him to, that's a whole different thing. So it really is important to understand when it actually is a problem. And again, this can change over time, just because it's not an issue at all and he's, drinking very sparingly right now doesn't mean that won't change in the future. And of course, alcohol is not the healthiest choice in general, but there are some people who can drink just a little and not become addicted. So I thought that was important to talk about too, because it really is important to understand when there is cause for concern. And it's also important to understand that there are some situations where it's not, and that alcoholism can look a lot of different ways when you do have a situation where there is cause for concern. So I hope that that's helped you kind of see all the different ways that it can look. So your husband might drink frequently, but never have angry outbursts or display any toxic behavior. But perhaps the alcohol is affecting his health, or perhaps it's affecting his ability to perform his job, etc. Someone else's husband might binge once or twice a week. So he has some sober days, but when he binges, he binges. He goes off the rails, he says mean things, he makes bad decisions, and perhaps he's even blacking out. Somebody else's husband might be at the point where he can't even hold a job anymore because he drinks morning till night. And again, that's where my husband was when he entered recovery. So it looks different for each of us. I hope that that's brought you a little bit of clarity that just because, your husband's drinking looks different from somebody else's doesn't necessarily mean that there is not a problem or that there won't be a problem in the future. Of course, I also want to mention, as we wrap up, that no matter what type of addiction your husband is dealing with right now, there is one thing that we all have in common, no matter what, and that is that we need help and support. I tried to do this by myself for way too long, and it almost pulled me under with it. Actually, it did pull me under with it. That's exactly why I created the Secret Sister Circle, which is my membership for wives of alcoholics. And so many women have passed through there and referred to it as their lifeline. So all of the confusion, sorrow, overwhelm, frustration that you're feeling, it doesn't have to be that way. I promise you. I would love it if you would just take a couple minutes today to head to marriedtoaddiction.com and look for the drop down that says need help, and go to the page for the Secret Sister Circle to read some testimonials from women just like you who have experienced breakthrough and freedom because of the SSC. I would love to have you join us there. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Hey, one more quick thing before I let you go today. Do you follow Married to Addiction on either Instagram or Facebook, or both? If not, I would love to have you join me over there. It's a great place to stay connected with everything that's happening with Married to Addiction. I post updates about my podcast episodes, of course. I post about my freebies. I post about my programs. I post encouragement in the way of Bible verses and things like that. I also post just like some helpful little teaching nuggets sometimes too. So I really think that you would get a lot of value out of that as the wife of an alcoholic, and I would love to have you join me on either Facebook or Instagram, or both. You can find me at facebook.com/marriedtoaddiction, or just at marriedtoaddiction on Instagram. I hope to see you there.